Hi there, welcome to our daily studies in Isaiah. I thought I'd try and get you a slightly nicer view for the next few days than my bedroom wall. However, I hope the sound of the waves does not drown out what God has to say through His Word. And then I was thinking, how hilarious would it be if there was this big wave that just took me out and the last thing you ever saw of me was me delivering this daily devotions to you. You are welcome. Anyway, what we are doing through this is, maybe you want to start and end the day with Isaiah through this spiritual growth campaign. Perhaps reading it really is a bit of a struggle for you. So just giving you this optional extra / replacement for being able to read through the book of Isaiah together. So I'm going to read, and then we're following Dr. Jackie Gray's premise of looking what it means for them, what it means for us, and then what it might mean for me individually. Hope that's not making you want to go to the toilet. Okay. Let's read the word. Isaiah chapter 5. Now I will sing for the one I love a song about his vineyard. So clearly this is the prophet singing for the one he loves, the Lord, about his vineyard, who is his people. My beloved had a vineyard on a rich and fertile hill. He ploughed the land, cleared its stones, and planted it with the best vines. In the middle he built a watchtower and carved a winepress in the nearby rocks. Then he waited for a harvest of sweet grapes, but the grapes that grew were bitter. Now, you people of Jerusalem and Judah, and goes to first person here, you judge between me and my vineyard. What more could I have done for my vineyard that I had not already done? When I expected sweet grapes, why did my vineyard give me bitter grapes? Now, let me tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will tear down its hedges and let it be destroyed. I will break down its walls and let the animals trample it. I will make it a wild place where the vines are not pruned and the ground is not hoed, a place overgrown with briars and thorns. I will command the clouds to drop no rain on it. The nation of Israel, here comes the explanation, is the vineyard of the Lord of heaven's armies. The people of Judah are his pleasant garden. He expected a crop of justice, but instead he found oppression. He expected to find righteousness, but instead he heard cries of violence. What sorrow for you who buy up house after house and field after field until everyone is evicted and you live alone in the land. But I've heard the Lord of heaven's armies swear a solemn oath. Many houses will stand deserted. Even beautiful mansions will be empty. 10 acres of vineyard will not produce even 6 gallons of wine. 10 baskets of seed will yield only 1 basket of grain. What sorrow for those who get up early in the morning looking for a drink of alcohol and spend long evenings drinking wine to make themselves flaming drunk. They furnish wine and lovely music at their grand parties, lyre and harp, tambourine and flute, but they never think about what God is doing. They never even notice what He's doing. So my people will go into exile far away because they do not know me. Those who are great and honoured will starve, and the common people will die of thirst. The grave is licking its lips in anticipation, opening its mouth wide. The great and the lowly and all the drunken mob will be swallowed up. Humanity will be destroyed and people brought down. Even the arrogant will lower their eyes in humiliation. But the Lord of heaven's armies will be exalted by his justice. The holiness of God will be displayed by his righteousness. In that day, lambs will find good pastures and fattened sheep and young goats will feed among the ruins. What sorry for those who drag their sins behind them with ropes made of lies, who drag wickedness behind them like a cart. They even mock God and say, hurry up and do something. We want to see what you can do. Let the Holy One of Israel carry out his plan, for we want to know what it is. What sorry for those who say that evil is good and good is evil, that dark is light and light is dark, that bitter is sweet and sweet is bitter. What sorry for those who are wise in their own eyes and think themselves so clever. What sorry for those who are heroes at drinking wine and boast about all the alcohol they can hold. They take bribes and let the innocent go free. They let the wicked go free and they punish the innocent. Therefore, just as fire licks up stubble and dry grass shrivels in the flames, so their roots will rot and their flowers wither. For they have rejected the law of the Lord of heaven's armies, and they have despised the Holy One of Israel, the word of the Holy One of Israel. That is why the Lord's anger burns against his people and why he raises his fist to crush them. The mountains tremble and the corpses of his people litter the streets like garbage. But then, even then, the Lord's anger is not satisfied. His fist is still poised to strike. He will send a signal to distant nations far away and whistle to those at the end of the earth. They will come racing toward Jerusalem. They will not get tired or stumble. They will not stop for rest or sleep. Not a belt will be loose, not a sandal strap broken. Their arrows will be sharp and their bows ready for battle. Sparks will fly from their horses' hooves, and the wheels of their chariots will spin like a whirlwind. They will roar like lions, like the strongest of lions. Growling, they will pounce on their victims and carry them off, and no one will be there to rescue them. They'll roar over their victims on that day of destruction, like the roaring of the sea. This sea, it's roaring. Might be roaring in your speaker right now. If someone looks across the land, only darkness and distress will be seen. Even the light will be darkened by clouds. Wow, this is a really hectic chapter and really quite depressing, frankly. But let's have a look at what it meant to them back then. So essentially, at the first part of the chapter, the Lord's talking about how he loved this vineyard. He laboured over this vineyard. He was intentional in the planting of this vineyard. He really, really cared. But what resulted from it was not what he asked for, and instead it was the very opposite. He wanted this beautiful sweetness, and what came out was bitter. And then he pronounces judgment that actually, well, he's not going to stand for that. You see, he talks about how in verse 7 it says that he wanted justice but he found oppression. He wanted righteousness but he found violence. It's actually a word play here in the Hebrew. Justice is mishpat, and the bloodshed or the oppression is mishpak. So I wanted mishpat but I got mishpak. I wanted tzedakah, righteousness, but I got sa'aka, which is violence. So he's saying here, you gave me the very opposite of what I wanted, and so you will pay for that. You will suffer the consequences of that. I will remove my hand of protection and my loving guidance, that watchtower that protects, those hedges and the walls that go up around to stop the wild animals getting in. He's saying, I'm going to take those away. Now, he's not talking against real estate endeavours. He's talking about against real estate endeavours that oppress or inequitably distribute wealth, that actually raise the house prices and put people out of the market and all that kind of thing. Like, these are things that we need to consider when we even make investments, that we would be careful about what we do, that it doesn't unnecessarily oppress anyone else. Maybe God wants to speak to you about helping people rather than building your portfolio or building your portfolio in order to help people. We just need to consider that. He's talking about these parties, and there's nothing wrong with the wine or the flutes or the tambourines or whatever it is. Otherwise, Jesus would not have gone to the parties that he went to. But it's talking about the rich bureaucrats, the oligarchs of society, who are. It's symptomatic of the unfair justice system, the injustice that prevails across the land. And so later on, it goes on and talks about how the sheep are going to be feasting amongst the ruins, which is kind of ironic. It's talking about them having feasts, but the judgment will come and then other things will feast amongst their ruins. Okay, so kind of thinking about this, even the windstorm in verse 28, saying that God is going to allow or even call nations around them to execute his justice on his behalf. That's a pretty epic thing to think about, that God kind of orchestrates the world events in order to get his purposes done. This windstorm is a motive for judgment right across. When God came in the cool of the day, when he came, it says that he came like a windstorm to Adam and Eve to judge them, yes, but to judge them in order to restore them and to rescue them. And that's also the message for the book of Isaiah, or will be. So this windstorm comes, also the windstorm of that, split the seas, that put the Egyptians into the drink, but let the people of Israel through. So having a think about this, what does it mean for us? It's very clear what it meant for them, for particularly the people of Israel, because that's who it's talking to. They're going to be done and dusted. But for us, what does it mean? Well, it means that we need to think about having the one true God as our Lord. It means that we need to think about righteousness and justice, that those two things go hand in hand, that we can't have the righteousness of God without having an eye for justice as well, that we can't oppress people. And it'll go on to outline a few more about what they were actually doing. But even as it relates to revelry, like okay, you can't just live life like God doesn't exist. So what does it mean for me? What am I going to say personally? Well, I want to be found righteous, which I am because of Christ, but I also want to be found carrying out justice. I don't want to be wise in my own eyes. I want to recognise that I'm completely dependent on the Lord. What does it mean for you personally today?